So if you're experiencing massive fluctuations and inconsistency with your Facebook ad results, then in this video, I just want to show you something that we do to stabilize our ad account performance. And it allows us to scale our clients' ad accounts with more predictability, and you're not worrying if, one day you're going to open up your ads manager and your ROAS has just completely dropped through the floor. So typically, this is what happens when you start running your account. So you might have some ads, and after some testing, you might see some ads that are working pretty well. So once they start working pretty well, your natural instinct is to then go and scale them, right? So what can happen is when you start to scale, they start to work really well, but then kind of all of a sudden, or even just maybe over a weekend or a couple of day period, you will just see a massive drop in performance. And you'll have all of these campaigns that were once working, they'll just drop off a cliff. And if your only way of getting customers and growing your business is through ads, this can be a pretty scary time because all of your profit is just kind of completely dropped and you don't know what to do. Or another thing that sometimes happens is that you might have some ads in the testing phase work well, but even literally as soon as you start to scale, just the costs are never the same as what they were during the testing phase, and it just drops. So you're always kind of stuck at that limit of maybe spending, maybe $1,000 a day, and you just can't seem to break through that barrier because every time you actually try to scale, the campaign performance drops. And this is pretty normal. A lot of people experience this. So one thing that we do inside our clients' accounts is we use cost caps to control the cost that we're seeing inside the account. So basically this allows us to say to Facebook, hey, I only want to pay this much for a conversion. And then Facebook is going to go out there and do its best to try and find you those conversions for that price. So it's super simple to set up. So let's just say you have an ad that is working in the testing phase and you want to duplicate it and use a higher budget to scale. Then this is how you set up the cost cap. So say you duplicate the ad set and you want to increase the budget. Let's just say you were testing at £20 and let's just say you want to go to £200, right, to try and scale. Basically what we would do here, and in this funnel example, we're sending ads for a high ticket coaching program, and the ads go to a VSL, and then underneath the VSL is a calendar for them to schedule a call. So we're going to optimize for calendar schedules in this example. Now, all you would do here is you can see the cost per result goal here. So you would just basically add in the cost that you want to pay for that conversion. So in this example, it's how much we want to spend to basically get a calendar booking of someone who's basically opted in to speak to our sales team. So let's just say for the average for us of what we want to be profitable with is 150. And there's some nuances here that I'm going to explain in a second, but I just want to show you how it basically works. So you can add it in here, and you just want to make sure that it's on cost per result goal. So this is basically saying, hey, Facebook, in this campaign, I only want to pay £150 for someone to book in my calendar. And that's it. That's pretty much the only change you'll do. So now Meta will go out there and they will try and spend the full budget of £200 a day, whilst making sure that they only get calendar schedules for $150. So basically what this does, it stops basically Meta putting your campaign into the auction where they could get more expensive calendar bookings. So in this example, let's just go back here. You might start your campaign and you might be getting calendar bookings for, £150, but then maybe something changes or over the weekend, you'll experience huge spikes in your cost and you might start getting calendar bookings for £300, £400, £500. And if you know from your KPIs and your funnel economics that you can't be profitable at that price point, then that's where these cost caps can come into play. Because if you have the cost cap on, then Facebook isn't going to charge you this much money for those calendar bookings. And it probably won't spend the budget. Because if it can't find the conversions for that price, then it's not going to spend the budget. And it's going to try its best to find those conversions for that cheaper price. So it's basically going to stop you from, spending, 200, 300, 400, 500 pounds to get a calendar booking in this example. But again, this isn't obviously just for calendar bookings. You can do it for cost per lead as well. So if you're generating leads for a webinar, and let's just say your target cost per lead is $10, then you can also set the cost cap for $10. If you're doing it direct to a sales page for a low ticket product, and you know that you can be profitable at £40 CPA, then you can obviously set the cost cap at £40 as well. So basically what this is going to do is going to set some caps on the amount that you can pay cost per conversion, and it's going to stop those massive fluctuations in cost like we talked about inside the ad account. Now, there are a few things to note that you want to have in place before you set something like this up. Number one is that you need to make sure that you have some understanding of the data. And you need to make sure that there is a lot of data already inside of your ad account. If you're just starting a brand new ad account, I wouldn't advise, starting bidding with cost caps. Because at this point, Facebook hasn't spent any data in the account and your pixel doesn't have any data. So it's going to be very hard for Facebook to try and find those conversions for like a really cheap price. So I would only advise doing this once you have data and you know what your average CPA is. So in this example, I know that I can get calls booked from anywhere between like 100 to 300 pounds. But I know that if I want to be profitable with my ad campaigns, I need it for it to be 150 pounds, right? So that's why I set the cost cap at 150. Now, if I hadn't had all that data inside my ad account, I wouldn't understand what my KPIs are and what would be profitable for me. So that's just one thing to note. Make sure that you have data. Another thing to note as well is that when you do this and you do the cost per result goal, Facebook is purely optimizing for price, right? The cost. It's not necessarily optimizing for the quality. So what you could potentially see is that people are booking in this example, booking in on the calendar, but you might find that the quality of people that come from these campaigns are a little bit less quality, because Facebook is purely just being like, right, how can I find Sam, the cheapest possible people to book in the calendar? And it's not necessarily finding like the right people. So that's why it's actually important to, if you're running like a high ticket coaching program sales funnel with a VSL, it's not only important to track the cost per call, but it's important to track the cost per qualified call. So you want to check, okay, like every time someone gets on the call with you, you need to mark whether they are qualified or not. And then you want to relay that to your metrics, whether you're using ROAS or something like that, to figure out, okay, which campaign did this person come from? And then once you understand that, you can work out what your cost per qualified call is. And that is kind of like the main metric that you want, right? So you could have one campaign with a cost cap that's getting a really cheap cost per call, which is like $100. But if the cost per qualified call is $1,000 because most of those people aren't qualified, then it's still not a very good campaign, even though your cost per call is technically lower. Whereas you might have another campaign that doesn't have a cost cap, and your cost per call could be £300, which is obviously expensive, but your cost per qualified call might be £350. So that's actually cheaper than the cost cap campaign, theoretically. So that's just something to note as well, that just because Facebook is getting you the cheapest conversions possible doesn't mean that these are actually quality people and they might not be your ideal customers. It's a little bit less important when you're doing cost per conversion because you're actually getting people to pay you. But when you're generating leads, whether that be email leads or call booking leads, then obviously the quality of that person matters more than if you're already getting money from that person and being profitable. So that's just something to note as well. You could also try and understand, if you are doing direct to a sales page, understanding the lifetime value of that person, right? So a lot of e-commerce businesses, they will run this type of model where their CPA inside of Facebook might be, and I'm just going to use round numbers here, it might be $50. And the average order value on the first day purchase might be 40. So they're losing $10 with every purchase. Oh, I don't know why I wrote 8. They're losing $10 on every purchase. But they're doing this because they know that the lifetime value of this customer could be, on average, the lifetime value is $300, because people, after a few months, purchase another product, they buy an upsell, a downsell, they buy the same product again. Obviously depends on the business, right? So they're happy losing $10 because they know over the next 6 months, they're going to get an extra $260 from this person, right, on average. But what you also want to look at, if the CPA of the cost cap campaign, maybe you could get it down. If you do I'm just going to give you like a theoretical example, but let's just say you do a cost cap campaign for $40 and it works and you're getting purchases for $40. That's great. But let's just do like 45, right? $45. And your AOV on this is still, let's say it's still 40, right? So you're losing $5. But if these are like low quality customers who are buying this, then you want to check the lifetime value from people from this specific campaign. And you might find that maybe these people don't buy again, right? And actually their LTV is only $40. They buy that first time and then they never buy again. Again, this is an extreme example, but I'm just trying to get the point across. Whereas like the quality of the customer actually matters over the long term in profitability of the business. So even though here your CPA is $50, which is more expensive than the $45, the lifetime value of people from this campaign is only $40, where the lifetime value of people from this campaign is $300. So therefore, you would much rather have this, right? As long as your business can sustain the cash loss, which is a bit more advanced, a bit more technical, but I'm just trying to get the point across here that the quality of the customer or the lead does matter to the overall profitability of your business, even though the initial pricing and the initial cost might look pretty good. Another thing to note as well, which we do, and it's not just we do, I think a lot of people do this as well, is that one of the risks with the cost cap campaigns is that you aren't guaranteed to spend the money, right? So if we send a cost cap of, like I said, $150 for a calendar schedule, if Facebook can't find the conversions for that price, then it's not going to spend any money. So that's like one big problem. Another big problem as well is that based on, and I'll be honest, I don't know the full science behind it, but sometimes different levels of cost caps can perform better and worse. And it's not necessarily like the lowest cost cap works the best. So what we do to avoid like the campaign's not working or the campaign's not spending money is we'll create multiple versions of the cost cap. So in this example, let's just say our target CPA for this calendar booking is 150. I might create 1, 2, 3, 4 cost cap campaigns. Now this cost cap might be a cost cap of, my main CPA, which is like 150, right? Because that's like what I know is profitable, and that would be like a good cost for us. I'll also probably try one a little bit lower just to see if we can squeeze a little bit more profitability from the campaign. So I might do one for 150. But, these are like two really good scenarios. But you're also, the lower the cost cap, obviously the more restrictive you are on Facebook and its algorithm trying to find you like customers. So I also like to create cost caps that are a little bit higher than our target CPA. So I'll do a cost cap campaign, and again, this is just an example, but like 160, and I might do another one at 170. Now, if I was doing leads for maybe a webinar registration and my average cost per lead is like $10, then I'll probably do one for $8, $10, $12, and then maybe like $15 or $16, or maybe even $20. Now, obviously, in this example, I don't really want Facebook to get me calendar bookings for 170. But as long as I'm not like dramatically unprofitable on that, obviously I wouldn't set it to be like 1,000, because, then if it's going to get me calendar bookings for $1,000, then that's not going to be profitable for me. So you want it to be close to kind of like your average CPA. But the idea here is that you're giving Facebook's algorithm a little bit more room to work. So therefore, it's got more of a chance of finding you customers. Now, we've found that sometimes, and not always, but sometimes, for example, if this is the 4-part scenario, this one might not spend, this one might not spend any money. Let's actually do some different colors. So this one, the 140 might just be too low and it's not going to spend any money. This one might spend money and it's getting us calendar bookings for, about 150, which is good. This one might be too expensive, right? So it might be getting it might not be too expensive for us. But then this one could actually get, just because you set the cost cap at $160, doesn't mean that it's going to get you calendar bookings for $160. It could actually also be cheaper. So again, just giving the algorithm a little bit of room to work can sometimes lead to a lower cost per conversion. Just because you set the cost cap, that is the maximum you want to pay. It doesn't mean Facebook is definitely going to get you cost per conversions for that amount. So typically what we will find, if we'll do like a 4-part testing process like this, where we'll create 4 different cost caps for the exact same ad set. So this, by the way, all of this here, this is all exactly, all these ads are exactly the same. The ad set's the same, the targeting's the same, the ads inside the finger, it's the same. It's basically, if you, in the testing phase, find an ad set and a set of ads that are working, you would just duplicate it 4 times and set a different cost cap for each one. And then you will test the cost cap to see which works and what doesn't. And then, once you leave it to run maybe for 3, 4, 5 days, maybe even 7 days, you'll get an idea of which ones are going to work. And if, for example, number 2 here at $140 cost cap, that's just not spending any money. Maybe you'll find that sometimes even over a week, it might spend $1 or something like that. And if it's not going to spend money, then after a few days, I'll just turn it off. And if this, for example, isn't spending, or maybe it's going it's too expensive at 170, then I'm going to turn this off. And then I've got 2 here that then I can continue running and continue to run and scale, because these could be getting me, bookings for 150, and maybe this one is working even better and getting me calendar bookings for 120. So I'd keep those on and I would continue to scale. So I wouldn't ever I have done obviously at some points, but I would rarely just create one cost cap for one ad set and just let it run. I like to create variations of it, just so then it allows me to kind of test which type of bidding strategy actually works best. So again, if you're just starting out and you don't even have ads that are working, you don't even have audiences that are tested and working, and you don't really know what your average CPA is, if you're a complete beginner, then this is something a little bit more advanced and you don't really need to worry about it. But if you are a more experienced media buyer and you are struggling to increase the budget and scale without kind of, your ad account is shitting the bed and losing you loads of money, then try and implement this strategy inside of your campaigns for a bit more consistency and predictability and a bit more safety when you're scaling, so you're not just kind of losing all of your money overnight. So that's it. Any questions about this strategy, just let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.